Imagine a perfect spring night, clear sky, full moon illuminating empty roads, the kind of night for a young couple to escape the city. But in Texarkana, the full moon meant he was hunting. Between February and May 1946, something terrorized an entire town. 8 victims, 5 dead, 3 traumatized survivors. All attacked the same way, young couples, isolated roads, full moon nights. The killer wore a white sack mask with holes for eyes, appeared out of nowhere. Attacked with calculated brutality, disappeared without leaving traces. They called him the Phantom of Texarkana, and to this day, no one knows who he was. Texarkana isn't an ordinary city. It exists in 2 states at the same time. The dividing line between Texas and Arkansas cuts the city in half. State Line Avenue. 2 cities, 2 governments, 2 police jurisdictions, and in 1946, this would become a fatal problem. February 1946. World War II had ended just 4 months earlier. Texarkana was a quiet town of 35,000 inhabitants, the kind of place where people didn't lock their doors, where young couples drove to rural roads at night without fear, until the Phantom appeared. The first attack, February 22, 1946. Jimmy Hollis, 25 years old, Mary Jean Larey, 19 years old. That Friday night, they decided to go for a drive. They parked at an isolated spot known as Lover's Lane. It was 11:45 p.m. A strong flashlight shone directly in their faces. The driver's door was ripped open. A figure appeared, tall, over 6 feet, wearing a white mask, a fabric sack with holes cut out, and a gun. The voice behind the mask was calm, controlled, terrifying. "Don't move. Don't scream." The man didn't want money, didn't want the car. He ordered them out and began beating Jimmy with the gun itself. Brutal blows to the head. Mary Jean screamed. That was a mistake. The man turned to her, grabbed her, began assaulting her, hitting with the gun, in the face, on the back, repeatedly. Mary Jean managed to break free and ran, barefoot, bleeding, down the middle of the dark road. The man chased her, caught up, kept beating her, but then headlights appeared on the road. The masked man looked at the light, hesitated, and disappeared into the darkness. Police treated the case as a violent assault, brutal, but not uncommon for an isolated road. They had no idea that this was just the beginning. March 24, 1946. Exactly 1 month later, Richard Griffin, 29 years old, Navy veteran, Polly Ann Moore, 17 years old, student. That Sunday night, they went to the movies. Afterwards, they drove to a rural road, Old Mooresville Road, the same area as the first attack. Sunday morning, a farmer saw a parked car. He stopped to check and found horror. Richard was in the driver's seat, dead, 2 shots to the back of the head. Polly Ann was in the back seat, dead, 4 shots. Both had been shot at point-blank range. There were signs of torture. And something even more disturbing, police found evidence that the killer had stayed there for a while, watching. The newspapers exploded. Double homicide at Lover's Lane. Serial killer terrorizes Texarkana. Suddenly, the entire city was on alert. Parents forbade children from going out at night. Rural roads became deserted. Guns started being sold en masse. Fear took hold. But the Phantom was just getting started. April 14, 1946. 3 weeks later, Paul Martin, 16 years old. Betty Jo Booker, 15 years old. Betty Jo was talented. She played saxophone in the school band. She had just performed in a competition that night. Paul offered to take her home. They never arrived. When Betty Jo didn't return, police organized a search. The next morning, they found Paul's car abandoned on Spring Lake Park Road. But Paul and Betty Jo weren't there. It took hours to find them. Paul was found first. His body was almost a mile from the car. He had been shot 4 times. Evidence suggested he tried to run. Betty Jo was found closer to the car, dead, 2 shots. But what disturbed investigators was she was clutching her saxophone. Even dying, she tried to protect her instrument. That detail broke the city, because it wasn't just a statistic. It was a 15-year-old girl who loved music. Texarkana entered total panic. 8 victims, 4 dead, all on isolated roads, all on full moon nights. The pattern was clear. The Phantom was hunting. People armed themselves. Gun stores sold hundreds of revolvers in days. Vigilante groups patrolled the roads. Streets became deserted at night. And the worst part? It still wasn't over. The attack that changed everything, May 3rd, 1946. Friday night until now, the Phantom only attacked isolated couples, always on roads, but this time, he entered a house. Virgil Starks, 37 years old, farmer, war veteran. He lived with his wife Katie on an isolated farm 10 miles from town. That night, Virgil was at home, reading the newspaper in the living room. The window was open. It was 11:30 p.m. Bang! A shot came through the window, hit Virgil in the back of the head. Bang! Another shot. Virgil fell from his chair. Katie heard the noise and ran to the living room, saw her husband on the floor, bleeding, dead. And then saw the shadow at the window. Katie tried to run, but the shooter was entering the house, breaking windows, shooting indiscriminately. Katie was hit twice, in the face, in the arm. She fell, but she wasn't dead. Katie, though wounded, played dead, lying on the floor, motionless. She heard the invader's footsteps inside the house. He was searching. Katie remained paralyzed for endless minutes. Then, the footsteps moved away. The door slammed. Silence. Katie waited, made sure he was gone, then, bloodied, crawled to the neighbor's house, over a mile away. When police arrived, they found Virgil Starks dead, blood throughout the house, and no trace of the killer. For the first time, investigators had physical clues. .22 caliber bullets, footprints, signs of observation. But this raised an even more disturbing question. Why did he change the pattern? Why abandon couples in cars and invade a house? Was he escalating or losing control? The manhunt. With 5 dead and 3 traumatized survivors, authorities launched the largest police operation in the region's history. Over 200 officers were mobilized: Texas Rangers, Arkansas State Police, FBI, local sheriffs. With the next full moon approaching, police created a bold plan. They would use human bait, officers disguised as young couples parked on isolated roads, waiting for the Phantom. Hundreds of officers hid in the darkness, waiting, watching. But the Phantom didn't appear. He was too smart and simply stopped. Police interrogated over 400 suspects, war veterans with PTSD, local criminals, outsiders. Nothing. No confession, no concrete evidence. It was as if he never existed. The prime suspect of all suspects, one stood out: U.L. Swinney, 29 years old, known criminal, history of car theft. And something more. His wife, Peggy, went to the police and said he was the Phantom. Peggy gave disturbing details. U.L. disappeared on the nights of the attacks. Returned with clothes stained with blood, had a .22 gun. She said he confessed the crimes to her and threatened her not to tell. Police were euphoric. Finally, they had the killer. But there was a crucial problem. No physical evidence. They didn't find the gun, didn't find blood-stained clothes. And under American law, a wife's testimony against her husband was not admissible in court. Police couldn't arrest him for murder, but arrested him for car theft. U.L. Swinney was sentenced to life in prison, officially for minor crimes. Unofficially, they believed they had captured the Phantom, but was it really him? U.L. vehemently denied it until his death. And there's another disturbing detail. After U.L.'s arrest, the attacks really stopped. Coincidence or confirmation, we'll never know. The theories. Theory 1, U.L. Swinney. The official theory. He was arrested. The crimes stopped. Case closed. But without proof, it's just a theory. Theory 2. A war veteran Texarkana was full of recently returned soldiers, many with severe PTSD, trained to kill. What if the Phantom was one of them? Someone who returned from war broken and channeled his trauma into violence. Some investigators believe he eventually left town or committed suicide. Theory 3. Multiple killers. What if it wasn't just one person? The first attacks were brutal but disorganized. The last ones were calculated and cold, as if they were different people. Perhaps there was a copycat. Theory 4. Someone protected the most disturbing theory. What if the phantom was never caught? Because he was someone above suspicion. A police officer, a local politician, someone who was protected, evidence that disappeared, witnesses ignored. As if someone was sabotaging the investigation from the inside. In 1976, Charles B. Pierce directed The Town That Dreaded Sundown, based on the murders. The film was shot in Texarkana, with local residents as extras, many who lived through the real terror. Texarkana never forgot. The attack sites still exist. Some residents avoid these places. They say they're cursed. Over time, the phantom became a legend. They say that on full moon nights, you can still see him, a white shadow on the roads, watching. Of course, it's just folklore, but Texarkana still locks its doors at night. With all the mystery, it's easy to forget. 5 people died. Richard Griffin, 29, veteran, survived the war, but not the phantom. Polly-Ann Moore, 17, dreamed of going to college. Paul Martin, 16, a boy trying to impress his friend. Betty Jo Booker, 15, talented saxophonist, clutched her instrument until the last moment. Virgil Starks, 37, was in his own home, reading the newspaper. Their families never recovered. The mystery that never dies. 78 years have passed, and we still don't know who the Phantom of Texarkana was. Was it UL Swinney? Was it a disturbed veteran? Was it someone they never suspected? The truth died with him. Why did he stop? Was he arrested? Did he die? Did he leave town? Why did he change the pattern in the last attack? And the most disturbing thing, what if he was never caught? What if he lived the rest of his life as an ordinary citizen, while Texarkana lived in terror? The Phantom of Texarkana teaches us something terrible. Monsters don't look like monsters. They look like ordinary people, neighbors, co-workers. They blend in, and sometimes they're never discovered. So next time you're driving at night, on an isolated road, under a full moon, remember, the phantom was never caught, and monsters never really die. Texarkana still lives in the shadow of 1946 because the worst kind of fear isn't knowing a monster exists. It's never knowing who he was or if he's really gone.